Welcome to We Talk Spanglish with your host, Manefta. Welcome to We Talk Spanglish. I could not be more excited about today. I've been waiting for this for a really long time. The Ken Russell, excuse me, like, who do I think that I am right now? So many things that I have questions about. I'm a Virgo, you're a Cancer. We are yin and yang. So even like through social media, I feel like we gravitated toward each other.
Opposites attract.
Yes, I loved your content. I thought you were funny. Obviously, that's my favorite thing, that I love funny. The yo-yo got me. And I think you're great. An amazing person. You've done amazing things for Miami.
Your audience has no idea who I am.
That's a lie. No, but then hold on, because she's gonna freak out.
No, she answered.
She did not answer. Let's be real. How many followers do you have?
A little over 400,000.
So nobody knows who you are?
Well, we'll see. We'll see come November.
Yeah, November. So I want to know because I'm a little confused about that. I know you're the man to explain that to me. No matter what party you're on, this is important to get out and vote for your city, for your local schools, for your traffic, your lights, everything that, you guys are the ones.
I think you're getting ahead of maybe even, like, we're assuming the audience knows who I am. Does the audience even know there's an election this year in the city of Miami? So if you're in the city of Miami, not Miami-Dade County, there's 34 cities in Miami-Dade County.
Do you know?
City of Miami is the largest one, about 500,000 residents. And they have an election for mayor this year. Francis Suarez is the mayor. He's termed out. He may be going off to Saudi Arabia earlier. He may be sticking around for an extra year. We don't know.
Se va? Okay, está bien.
Pero the seat is going to be open, whether it's this year or next year or however it works.
Are you going to take it?
I'm running for mayor.
Yeah! That makes me excited. He has a good heart, and we need somebody with a good heart. Please. I think that you lead by example, so that, actions speak louder than words.
I got pulled into it in a weird way that most good people don't, because why would you want to be in politics, much less Miami politics? If you're just a good person who likes to do good things, it's not a really good place for you. It's a rough machine.
Yeah.
And for me, I wouldn't have wished it on my worst enemy. I was a professional kite surfing instructor. I was teaching people how to enjoy the bay.
That is far off.
I was not a lawyer. I was riding my little kiteboard professionally.
What?
3 days. 8 hours a day in the sun. My hair's down to here.
Surfing it up.
Literally teaching.
Kiting it up.
Tourists and residents how to enjoy the bay. And there was a contaminated park in front of my house, and I got in a fight with the city over it. And I started organizing my neighborhood, making t-shirts, the contaminated soil.
The contaminated soil.
It was incinerator ash there was an incinerator in the West Grove called Old Smoky. It's a cancer cluster there, but when they got done with the ash, they didn't know where to put it, so the city started putting it in the empty spaces. This is decades ago.
And that had radiation, right?
They ended up being our parks. Not radiation, but lots of heavy toxins, like heavy metals and
that's really dangerous, and it's
bad.
Where people go to
decades, and my kids.
Yeah.
And so I started a movement to get the parks cleaned up. There were 6 of them in the city. I was successful in the one in my neighborhood. I was having trouble getting the other ones to go.
Follow.
Because they weren't my neighborhood, but I was trying to find the me of each neighborhood.
Right.
And then I ended up running for office.
I can't believe it. That's crazy. How old were you when you decided to run?
This is 10 years ago.
10 years ago. My bad. Yeah. Well, today, when you sent me a message, you showed me some clips of you doing your yo-yo. And when I look,
people don't know what you meant by that.
It's crazy because,
like, is that a metaphor? What is she talking about? What kind of show is this?
My son had a yo-yo, and he thinks that nobody knows what a yo-yo is. But you were a professional yo-yoer.
Before my kite surfing life, I was a professional yo-yo.
You were young.
That's right. It's true.
I looked it up.
There was a time.
You were like 15?
Yeah, that's when I started. Yeah. My first world tour was when I was 14.
That's insane.
I was 14.
And wait, but this comes from like your family, from your mom's side and your dad's side, right?
Yes. My mother was the yo-yo champion of Japan. She's from Japan. She's an immigrant to Miami.
Wow.
Brought here by yo-yo because my dad was the world champion and he had a patent on mass producing yo-yos.
I saw
back
that.
in the 50s, yeah.
Which I think is fabulous. And the fact that you picked it up and liked it and like went pro with it is kind of crazy.
Here's a story a lot of people don't know. Before my dad met my mom in the 60s, he opened his business in Cuba. And he was teaching Cuban kids in the 50s how to play yo-yo. And he was there for about 10 years.
What?
And
so he lived in Cuba.
He spoke Spanish. He lived in Cuba. And he even got to be very close friends. And if people know the yo-yo history of the world, the Coca-Cola yo-yo is the most sold yo-yo in the world. And every Coca-Cola yo-yo has my name on it. It says
I did not know
Russell
that.
Yo-yo. And so he was there working with the Coca-Cola bottler in Cuba. He met Roberto Gussueta, who was a chemist at the bottling plant, went on to be the CEO of Coca-Cola globally through the 80s.
Oh my God.
My dad was there right up until Castro came, seized my dad's business, his cars, his assets and everything, kicked him out of the country.
I don't think people talk about how many things.
And I'm telling you, you're breaking news.
Yeah,
Nobody knows this story.
Yeah.
And to this day, I believe there is a warehouse of Russell yo-yos
Still there.
in Cuba, just like somewhere.
Oh my God, I want to
held
go
by
look.
the regime. And,
do you know like where in Cuba?
Someday. It must have been related to the Coca-Cola factory before that was taken over as well. So I'm sure we could research it and find it.
Oh, I'm interested.
Someday.
Now I'm intrigued.
Well,
I want to know. That is so cool. What are the odds?
Someday. We know when.
So he met your mom here
Yes.
or in Cuba?
No, he met her in Japan.
Okay.
Because he was on yo-yo tour looking for yo-yo players to join the team, like the circus, and he met my mom in full kimono. She would do yo-yo tricks and Tokyo
that.
Tower and like all the
That
she
is
was the
so
best. Yeah.
cool. I love that. Is she still with
My dad passed. My mom's still with us, but she doesn't play yo-yo anymore. So when I say she was the best, she just don't play
She
yo-yo.
just doesn't play anymore. Yeah, it's a thing of her past.
Yeah.
Well, she lived it up, that's for sure. I think that's amazing. I mean, I looked up a couple of things because, of course, naturally I want to, have my research before I sit down with you. No, I didn't miss it. But I was just so surprised. What I did miss was, which is not in there, is this whole story of the factory in Cuba.
Yeah, no, nobody really.
Because if you think about it, Miami is what Cuba would have been if it ever evolved, if it wasn't, taken hostage by a regime, obviously. Mm-hmm. I feel like this would have been the Spanglish, the people, the pastelitos, the coffee at 2:00, and the whole vibe of what Cuba really was in its prime was brought here. They took the natives and brought them here.
He saw that, and I heard the stories of it. The kids in the street playing the yo-yo with these yo-yo champions teaching them and having fun. It was a very vibrant musical place.
That's fun.
And he saw the change. He saw it go gray, go dark.
Yeah, they took the music from them. It was like gradual steps, but they really made them suffer. And I think 80 years later, we're still here.
So my other Cuba story, which may get me in trouble, because I violated embargo a little bit. But in my next life after yo-yo, I was in the surfing industry, right?
Okay.
And I found out that there was a group of people that taught kids how to surf in Cuba, and it's not one of the approved sports of the regime.
Well, because they can't use the ocean.
Things that float and go far aren't welcome. And so I smuggled some surfboards into Cuba on some medical flights.
So did they make it?
Oh yeah, they got in the.
Wait,
so
no
the
way.
way it would be, like the guys that would teach the kids, the senior guys would take the
That's
new boards.
awesome.
They'd come in and they'd hand their boards down to the. They do that. There's a group that does that with skateboarding out of Miami as well.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So yeah, I got a few boards over there, and
that makes me happy.
Yeah.
They probably never even seen like what that looks like, or what is like a surfboard.
Yeah, maybe somebody will bring it back.
Yeah, maybe. Good Lord, that's a lot of people ask me that because now that I live in Tampa, they're like, oh, but you're Cuban. Like, why don't the people just leave? Why don't they just and I'm like, do you know how many people have died? They don't have boats. They make like rafts out of like the most ridiculous things, and they're so innovative. Mm-hmm. Cubans are so innovative. They still have cars that work from the 50s. Mm-hmm. Like that's what they have. That's what they're dealt with. And to me, that's mind blowing, But I do feel like this would have been Cuba if it didn't have a regime. And when people come here and they're like, oh my God, when you go to Miami, you have to talk Spanish, because if not, you're not gonna get nowhere. Like, we're 90 miles from Cuba.
Right.
That's where everybody came.
There's a lot of places that are 90 miles from somewhere else that don't have the type of cultural infiltration that Miami does. I would say there is no other city in the country where an immigrant community came over and really took over music, food,
everything,
culture, and politics.
And politics.
And they could have left that one home, in my opinion, because there is some rough and tumble, dirty politics here.
It's scary.
And as much as people decry the regime, there's a lot of the political tactics used here in Miami.
I feel like they don't realize that they're bringing it back.
It's you know.
And they're not bringing sexy back.
That's sort of, no.
No, they're not bringing sexy back. They're bringing something that they ran from.
That type of rhetoric and type of campaigning and type of political control it's better left. It's.
Well, I mean, we have a constitution that I feel like should be lived up by. We all took an oath as Americans when we do the Pledge of Allegiance, and I was a proud American. And at this point, I'm not a proud American. I'm not a proud Cuban. And that kind of hurts me. Like, it hurts my soul to think that let's say I were to say I want to go back to my roots. I can't go back to my roots. There is nothing there. Cuba is not what it was or what it ever was. So what do I have to go back to? I don't even have a citizenship there. It doesn't mean you don't have
to be proud. Like, and America's not what it was even 10 years ago. It's different now. Yeah. The political landscape, the so many things.
A lot of things.
But I'm still proud of being American, but I'm not proud of everything we do. I'm not proud of a lot of the direction of things. But it doesn't mean I want to leave. Like, I wouldn't live anywhere else. I wouldn't live anywhere else from Miami, and I wouldn't live anywhere else from the United States.
I already did that. I left Miami. It was good. I think it was good for everyone in my family. Everyone spread their wings. Everyone is doing better than what we were doing here. But I always feel like it's good to explore. And if you're not the type to move, travel. You travel. It's being cultured, and that means something. And you can't lose. I don't want Miami to lose touch of that, because there's so much.
It'll always change, but it'll always be Miami. It'll always be Miami.
It'll always be crazy.
I was born here, and I left in 1979, right after Hurricane David.
Okay, I think that's what you were. I saw that that you guys moved to Sarasota.
No, Stewart.
2
hours due north.
Wow.
And so a lot of my formative years were there. So I left here in elementary school and went to high school 2 hours north. Then college. Then I worked and traveled to over 50 countries.
What?
And then I decided to come back about a little over 20 years ago.
Seen the world.
23 years ago. When my son was born, I wanted to come back here.
I want to be here.
Yeah.
Home.
Because this is where I had my first and formative years.
Yeah, it was home for you.
Yeah, and I love it.
So your parents came, your dad came, they fell in love over there in Japan?
So my dad came in the early 50s, late 40s after the war. He was in World War II. That's not how he met my mom.
Wow.
And he went to UM on the GI Bill. So he went to UM and took classes there in business and architecture.
That's crazy.
And he started his own business and settled in Miami and opened up his shop in Cuba and back and forth. I can't
believe that.
And then he went global everywhere. So yeah.
And your name is on the yo-yos?
On every yo-yo, every Coca-Cola.
So how long, was that like something your mom, did he bring your mom here to the States or?
Yes, so she immigrated in the 60s with him and they got married in Acapulco. They eloped and then they settled here.
I can't, that's so cool.
And at one point they're in Coral Gables, at one point they're in Key Biscayne. But I remember as a child, my mother came to my school in first grade and did a yo-yo show in her kimono.
Oh my God.
And I was mortified. And true Key Rats will know this story. Anyone who grew up anywhere near Key Biscayne knows the yo-yo house that we lived in from the 1970s.
So everyone knows that.
Because it was yo-yos that paid for the house, and at Halloween we would give out yo-yos instead of candy. And the line would go out of Key Biscayne.
No way.
People would change their costumes and come back to get the yo-yos.
The yo-yo.
And we would be out on the front stoop with boxes, just cases and cases.
That's so fun. I love that.
Yeah.
You have good memories here.
It's still called the yo-yo house to this day.
I need to see it. I definitely need to see you. No, I need to see it. That's so funny. So you went to school in Stewart. Did you graduate over there? Or?
Yeah, high school, yeah.
So you graduated high school over there. And then you went to North Carolina?
Correct. I did 1 year abroad in Japan at university there.
Wow.
And graduated from North Carolina.
How was going to school over there?
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah, what made you like
study abroad? I highly recommend it.
I know, I'm telling her that.
Do it.
She wants to be a doctor, so I'm like, leave, let's leave.
This is your chance, do it.
You know, and we'll go with her.
Yeah.
So it's not like she'll be alone, like we'll go with her.
So I did a minor in Japanese, and I studied abroad over there for a year, and then I did some business in Japan afterwards. But when my son was growing up here in Miami, he took Japanese classes, and I told him to study abroad. He didn't. But I said, if you study Japanese all through college, I'll take you on a trip to Japan when you graduate.
Oh my God, I saw that. The whole cafe.
And that's what we did. He taught the Japanese how to make.
I'm gonna post that for everyone to see that because I think that is such an amazing. I want to say that video almost made me want to cry because their faces were like.
It really grabbed people here.
I'm telling you, like when Lenny posted it, I was like,
it's
wait
over
a minute.
3 million views in like a month.
But he was so proud to make that coffee. Like he was putting in that wrist work and he was like, wait, and like this goes like this.
But it confused, so I took this trip in the middle of this mayoral campaign and my team's like, no, you can't leave in the middle of a campaign. We just launched. What are you doing? Like you're not going to get any attention for your campaign in Miami while you're over in Japan.
That's crazy. But you were like, I'm leaving anyways. I don't give a shit.
So we did. And my son's like, all right, I'm bringing a gift to your relative. We're going to meet. He's going to meet his uncle and his aunt. He'd never met them before and he wanted to bring them Bustelo.
Oh, Bustelo.
And so he brought a brick of Bustelo. He brought the little cafetera. He brought everything. We just used their sugar. They had the white sugar over there, and
it was great.
They thought he was a magician. They had never seen anything like that.
Their faces, before. It was like such genuine, like shock. Like, what are we witnessing right now? And when it started coming out, it was like, oh, like,
it was legit, like you could really see it.
Everybody was like so into it and they were looking at it and he was just like so proud. And you were in the corner too. You were like,
I was proud
that's my boy, you know.
Proud of Miami, proud of my son. I was watching all my relatives like freak out over this coffee.
They were freaking out. I mean, their expression it was great. It was so genuine. I'm so glad you recorded that.
And it went so viral. I got back, my team's like, all right, if you want to travel, you can go.
You know what? Do it again. It went good. It went good. You have good timing.
And everybody in Miami thought I was Cuban all of a sudden. Thought my son was Cuban.
I thought you were Cuban.
I'm like, no. Like he worked at a car dealership in town and learned to make coffee. And so he wanted,
It wasn't me. You're like, it wasn't me.
Yeah.
No, but honestly, I thought you were Cuban too. At least part Cuban. Because I know you talk about being part, from Japan and all of that. And you always talk about your culture. But you speak Cuban Spanish.
Isn't that the same as just not speaking Spanish very well?
But you do. You have, okay, look, let's be real, bitches. Beef steak, bite. Okay, so Cuban Spanish is very broken. And I feel like that happened when they came from Cuba. There's the formal way of speaking, Spanish, and you have your Cuban dialect, which is the more older Cubans. And then you have the Spanglish, which is Gen X, millennials, and then you have Gen Z, and now what is it? What's the next one? Alpha? Okay, they're no sabos. They're different. Theirs is like really bad. Like,
but do they even speak Spanish?
If they do.
So that's the weird thing. They have an accent.
Yeah.
They have a dialect in English.
Yeah.
But even if they don't speak Spanish.
And they don't speak Spanish.
And they are from Miami.
My son is a perfect example. He looks at me and I talk Spanish and he'll look at me and be like, yeah. And I'm like, you really don't understand me. I spoke to these kids till they were 3 years old, only in Spanish, for them not to talk Spanish like I do. I'm very fluent. Like when I went to Cuba, oh my God, they thought I was Cuban. They were like, but are you sure you weren't born here? And I was like, yeah, well, my birth certificate says I'm a United States American citizen. So, that's what I was told. They would tell me, how do you switch it up where you talk English and Spanish so perfect? But you and I both know that the English is Miami English. They don't know that. It's broken. I have an accent everywhere that I go. We don't realize that. but we have accents. Miami people, I hope you all know that you don't speak perfect English either. Even if you don't speak Spanish.
That's true.
I'm gonna hold your hand when I say that.
With love.
Okay? Yeah, with love. I love my Miami accent. I hope I never lose it. Huh? Yeah, people will ask her, like, over there in Tampa, they'll be like, oh, you're from Miami, you know?
Yeah.
She understands it, but she does not speak it fluently.
Is Tampa Cuban different than Miami Cuban?
Oh my, there's no Tampa Cubans. If there are, there's more in Sarasota. Sarasota has a lot of Cubans, believe it or not. But I mean, Tampa is a nomad's land. Everyone there is from somewhere else. No one will tell you, oh no, I'm a Tampa native. I'm from Ohio, I'm from New York, I'm from Puerto Rico, there's a lot of Puerto Ricans over there. Not like Orlando though. Orlando's like Puerto Ricanville. There's so many Puerto Ricans in Orlando. It's crazy. But over there, it's like there's also a lot of Mediterranean. Like there's so many great, cool like restaurants that are Mediterranean. But I can't find good Chinese food. Even Chinese, something simple, the food, nothing is authentic. You'll go to a Cuban place and they'll give you Venezuelan empanadas or Colombian. I know it's a Colombian empanada.
Salami on a sandwich.
Stop it right now. I have such an issue with that. Salami on a... You know the story of that, right?
Why there's salami?
Well, because supposedly, yeah, it was a Cuban and an Italian guy who would eat lunch together when that whole thing was happening that they were building like...
That sounds like bullshit.
Well, that's what I think. And supposedly the Italian and the Cuban decided to put the salami, but I'm like, but hold on. The original sandwich from Cuba doesn't have salami. It's disgusting. I won't eat it.
You don't accidentally fall into a sandwich with the salami like a Reese's cup or something like
It's
this.
disgusting. Why? And people love it over there. They're like, does it include salami? I'm like, I want to cry. There's a place that opened up that's like a Cuban place. It's Box Cuban. Okay, who's going to tell them that we know those are frozen croquetas? Number one. They're like BJ's frozen croquetas. They're pink inside. The pink bitches inside? Okay. Why do they want $5? No, I think it was like $8. It's an appetizer and it brings, think like 2 or 3 croquetas. Like little croquetitas from the box. I was like, what are we doing? Dipping sauce. Where's the limon? So nothing is genuine.
Right.
Like there's no genuine Italian place. You have to go more towards like the Bay Area. But I'll say the restaurants in St. Pete, they're good. They have some really good stuff, like different stuff. Like there's an LGBTQ restaurant over there. Oh my God, it's like a sandwich shop kind of place.
It's like a biscuit place.
Well, they have that one too. There's a biscuit place and there's like this sandwich shop that they have as well. And they have pan con vite there. They had like different stuff, but but gay. And it was good. Maybe it was good because they were gay. Because that makes a lot of sense. You need to have that sauce. Miami has that sauce for food. It does stay very authentic and genuine, that's for sure. Because over there,
Zesty.
it's not... There's a place called ATO that I love. And they have sushi burritos and they like deep fry them in panko. That is amazing. You need to try that. This one's intriguing to me. You were born in Doctor's Hospital.
I was.
And Doctor's Hospital is very, very home to Coral Gables. So you've always been a Coral Gables boy.
And they don't have a maternity ward anymore. I mean, the last time I've been there is for broken bones.
I didn't even know that. Yeah.
They did back then, but yeah, they don't.
Now they're more into like, specialties and all that stuff. But it's a good hospital. That I will say. It's a good hospital.
Me?
Yes, it is. You, sir, have a bachelor's in science and business. And
there's no science involved. It's called a Bachelor of Science in
right.
Business. Yeah.
So my question to you is how does that lead you to, obviously where you're a politician, it was leading you because you wanted change. You wanted to change a situation that you felt was bad, which was putting that in the soil, which is horrific. I don't even know whose idea that was or who passed it. But like you said, they're all corrupt. How do you think that with your degrees and your knowledge, because I think you're super smart. You're funny. You're like very well-rounded, I feel, and charismatic. You're at a great age to run for this. Yeah, like you have kids.
I'm late, honestly.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I'm already 50. Well, 51. I'll be 52 in
You don't
3
look
weeks.
50 at all.
That's
Happy
the Japanese.
birthday is
Thank
coming.
you.
The
It's
Japanese. Japanese skincare.
But I don't think any of that really prepared me. People don't run for office because they don't think they're qualified. They think you either have to be a lawyer or politically connected or wealthy or funded or whatever. And
who would you speak to? A random person. If you could speak to a random person and say, hey, I think that you would make a great candidate.
I meet them every day.
And you tell them that.
I actually warn them. Because a lot of times they come to me with an issue that they'd like to solve.
Okay.
And I give them a little guidance and a nudge, and they go off. They'll be talking before a planning and zoning board, or on a historic thing, or on a tree protection thing.
Okay.
And I'm like, be careful, this is how commissioners are born.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, no, I'm not qualified for that. I'm like, I was a surfboard salesman.
Yeah.
You have a Bachelor of Science in it. I had an undergrad, I had a business degree, I started my own little company.
That's amazing.
Had nothing to do. And for me to fall into that world, not being a lawyer, because you're suddenly a legislator and you're meant to write law.
Yeah.
You actually act on the commission in a quasi-judicial manner where you're hearing appeals and hammering the gavel. I was the chairman for years. I didn't have any experience in that, but you don't need it. If you are trying to fix things and you are open to listening to those who know more than you, and you can make decisions, you are qualified. That is all you need.
That's amazing. And I think that people need to hear that, because you could be sitting at home making a difference. And just by getting out there and putting yourself out there, what is it? If you're not uncomfortable, you're not doing something right, like get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that speaks volumes, because you're encouraging people. Like when people ask me, should I post a video? I'm like, hell yeah, post a video. Post a video.
Yeah.
The one that you think isn't gonna, the one you put the least effort into, and you know, you and I both.
Oh, you do all this editing, and 3 people go, wah. Yeah. But the one where you accidentally fart on camera, boom, you're off.
El peo took off. And it's so true, because people like people that are genuine, and that are genuine to the point where like they're gonna share things that no one's gonna talk about.
Yeah.
And in reality, that person is influencing you to get uncomfortable, right?
So here's the interesting thing. My TikTok, which is way beyond any other social media platform that I use.
I love your TikTok.
At one point, it was almost 500,000 people. It started because I was actually running for U.S. Senate against Marco Rubio. I had a team. We'd raised a bunch of money, and they were running my Twitter and my Instagram. And they took everything away from me. I had no toys.
Yeah? Can we take some away from other people?
And I'm like, yeah, some people should not have those things.
Like, take their phone.
So they're putting all the formal Mother's Day posts, and here's my thoughts of the day and whatever. And I'm like, I got nothing. Let me go on TikTok and see if that's any fun. And it blew up so fast.
So kind of like there was like an accident, or like,
complete accident.
Let's just blindside this and try it, right?
And my team was scared to death, because I was going on there with my hair like this and saying things off the cuff. They're like, no, we got to rehearse these things. It's not scripted.
You are unhinged, sir.
That's what I was called. And I literally that year, Miami New Times Best Of called me best TikToker in Miami. Not best politician TikToker, best TikToker in Miami.
I so love it.
Because I was having so much fun.
It is fun, right?
And yeah, no, it was good.
TikTok is something. TikTok will always have. I know people that are telling me that they're getting on TikTok now, and I'm like, but it's not the same anymore. And this is true. The algorithm has changed. TikTok, are you listening? The algorithm has changed, but I am forever grateful for TikTok. It saved me from getting probably severely depressed during COVID, because I was entertained. I will say that it brought out a creative side of me. It brought me to this that I would have never, ever in a million years thought.
That's how I found you.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm so grateful for TikTok. I will forever. I've learned how to do stupid shit, like take out a stain, or turn a knob, or
run for office.
Why exactly run for office? Like, you can do it. And I say post the video. 100% post the video. I think that, you know, if everybody encourages everyone, there's room for everybody online. The internet is undefeated. people are like, no, I could never, you know. I have a really good friend of mine that came to dinner last night, and she's a mortgage broker, and she's so successful. And when I tell you she's drop dead gorgeous, she is a 5'8" blonde, blue eyes. She's gorgeous. She's terrified. She's terrified, and I'm pushing her. I'm like, you need to, ma'am.
Vulnerable.
I don't see your video. You have not posted it. She's like, oh my God, I knew you were calling me for that. I'm like, next time if you don't answer me, I'm gonna call you again. And you know, so I think that people should encourage each other, and I think that people should definitely run for office.
Absolutely.
Like, and I'm not saying that because you're here. I'm saying that because I feel like we need more native people, normal people that are not, or think they're above other people, or come from money, or any of those things. I feel like you're not a good candidate.
So I think I got lucky because for the seat that I won, being commissioner for Coconut Grove, Brickell, downtown, like all the waterfront of the city, is a very powerful seat. I had no idea what I was getting into. They called me a kid with the keys to a Ferrari because I was just knocking doors and I knew nothing about politics. I was like Leslie Knope. I wanted to clean up a park and then suddenly I'm running for office.
That is so Forrest Gump.
It was I like stumbled into this whole thing and I'm like knocking on doors. I'm like, hey, what would you like me to fix with the city? They're like, oh, he's listening to us. I'm like, no, I really don't know. What should we fix for the city?
Like, can you tell me?
And it caught fire. Like I knocked on thousands of doors and my competitor was the wife of the incumbent commissioner. She was running. He was termed out. She was running. They had $1.6 million for a council, city council
here,
seat.
Huh? Like throw the wife
The
in?
nepotism, the family members. I literally served 2 terms. I left. I'm only coming back to knock all that shit out now because the monopoly that the dynasties have on this city is over.
Yeah,
and the corruption has got to come to an end. And I've seen how it can be fixed. I know what needs to change to our charter. And I think the will of the public is there now to see that change.
Yeah, I agree. I think if it's the time, now is the time.
I can feel it. There's
people
a vibe going on.
People are freaking out with what they're seeing.
People are over it.
And not only over it, like, there's videos now. There's video evidence of everything. It's not like, oh, it's an opinion. No. These are fun facts.
Yeah.
Like the fact that Florida has lost almost 37% of their doctors on the Doctors Board website. When I saw that scared me. Why are doctors, these are highly educated people, leaving? There's a reason for that. And it makes me think of my grandfather, because my grandfather, I don't know if you know this, but he stole the political plane. He hijacked it. Yeah, he sure did. And he came here and he served in the army. He was a political prisoner, so they would have them serve so that they can compensate for their time. He brought my grandmother, and that's how they came over here. Very humble, very poor. You know, they were doctors over there. They owned sugarcane farms. They were very wealthy Cubans in Cuba. And they left behind all their riches because they had to. Because if he didn't join that revolution, they were gonna either shoot him execution or hang him.
So are you saying there's a parallel to people leaving Florida now because they don't feel comfortable here?
It kind of rings a bell.
I think people are leaving Florida either, one, because their professional freedoms might be threatened, whether they're a doctor, a teacher, or whatever.
Yeah.
But they're also maybe because they can't afford to live here anymore.
100%. And the insurances as well.
And there's no suburb you can run to anymore.
No. There's not. Everything's kind of spread out when you go up north. Yeah, like, you know, like they'll have like a nice neighborhood here. And that's why Tampa's very well-rounded, where it's like a big circle, you know, and then you have the bay. So it's like, if you're going a little north, you're still within that circle of Tampa.
Is it still affordable there within a driving distance of work or whatever?
It is.
Because, I mean, here, city of Miami itself is now the #1 unaffordable city in the country.
It makes me so sad.
When you compare the cost of the houses and how much people spend of their salary on the houses, we are the biggest gap.
I think it's like 90%, right?
There are more people spending more than 50% of their income here than anywhere else in the country.
And sharing rent. And sharing rents because there are people who are like, okay, I got qualified for the lease, but I really can't afford it. So they bring Fulano in and Fulano comes and saves the day. But like,
they're coming for the Miami effect. They want to manifest all this.
Dude, it's crazy. But you know what I love? That I can come to have a little 4-hour drive, and I'm in the mix of it all.
Yeah.
you know, and I think that for me and my family, it was the right move. They had smaller classrooms.
Yeah.
They have, I mean, the traffic is nowhere near. You know, I live in this little circle of the kids' schools right there. I'm in a really good neighborhood, gated community, and
Yeah.
I would never be able to afford that, even with the salary that my husband makes now here.
People think you can't do anything about the housing crisis in Miami. It's not true.
I don't believe that.
With the political will, there is absolutely the ability to fix that. And the same thing with the corruption issue. People think, oh, that's what we live with, that's what we have.
Why do we need to
change.
accept that? Yeah.
Because people just think the same people are going to continue to get elected and do bad things and not be held accountable, and they're never going to fix the housing. The housing crisis can't be fixed unless you fix the corruption problem. The bad politics keeps us from doing good policy.
Agreed.
And it's not that, I didn't even have a background in land use and planning and affordable housing, but learning from other cities that have gotten it right and policies that do exist, I was able to put together what Miami needs, and I was putting it on its way, only to see the crooked guys undo it and pull the rug.
So that's where I think people don't think that coincides, where, yeah, like the politics and the market, that has nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
It does.
So municipal politics in general, and especially Miami, where development is so powerful.
Yeah, it is.
They're very intertwined. Local politics are unlike state or federal politics. In state or federal politics, a legislator is working on the philosophies and practices around some legislation that affects whatever.
The state.
You name it.
Right.
In the city of Miami or any municipality, the legislators are voting on a piece of property. I am going to rezone your property and quintuple its value with the drop of a gavel. With
like the little stuff. This is what we need.
Imagine how beholden those developers are to those politicians.
Yeah.
So this is the myth. People think, oh, the developers own the politicians. When I got in, that's what I thought. And I
can see why
quickly learned it's the opposite. The politicians own the developers.
Really?
Because they cannot build what they want to build without going to the commission, hat in hand, saying, hey, I need this entitlement, I need this waiver, I need this upzoning, I need this density increase, I need this whatever.
Okay.
And that puts the commissioners in a very strong position of power for fundraising.
They can say yes or no.
They have the yes or no on the entire future of a project, whether it's a city block or a single site. And so that makes real estate and development and politics very intertwined. And affordability isn't going to happen organically in a place like Miami.
No.
You will never get to that equilibrium needed of supply and demand, where there is so much supply that the demand doesn't overwhelm the price.
I don't think
you'll never get there.
We've seen ever that actually where there's like a leveled market. No.
So you need the government to put a finger on the scale to incentivize developers to do what you want them to do. And I don't mean completely just give tax breaks or whatever to developers to do.
Right.
You can point them in the right direction so that they can be profitable, but develop the type of product we need for the community.
Correct. Because that's going to withstand what we need.
If it's all luxury market, which we're doing just fine on, the bubble will pop because we do not have a sustainable housing market for those who live and support the community.
Correct. And that's what a lot of people, I get that a lot. People are like, oh no, it's never going to happen like the market in 2008. That's never going to happen. And I agree with them. It's never going to happen like that, but the market is going to crash.
It'll correct, yeah.
And it's going to crash in a different way. And I don't say that because, I want the market to crash, or like, no, that's not what I want. But I know that's what's going to happen because it's going down that path. That's we are creating massive destruction. All these little people with their little sheds and their huts and their motor homes parked in the back of their house for $1,000. Fire hazards, people can die. How long will that shed withstand rentals? How many years, how many hurricanes can they withstand? And that's where things become dangerous and people get hurt and infrastructure comes in. Where do those people go if there's a hurricane and they're living in a she shed?
Yeah. And then when redevelopment does come to that house or neighborhood, what will go there in its place? Is it something for the community that lives there now, or will it completely gentrify and displace everybody that's there for the next wave of
influx of people? Yeah. What would you give as far as advice to someone who still wants to buy a property here, no matter what?
Well, in the long term, and this is my selfish side speaking, elect good policymakers who are investing in infrastructure.
Okay.
Because when the city builds a seawall in a new section, it lowers the insurance rates of that entire neighborhood.
So there is a way
There is
to
an
fix
absolute way. Like what we saw even just this week with the flooding is ridiculous.
It's so bad here.
That Public Works is not pumping out those drains, that they're not implementing. When I was there, we passed $400 million in resilience money without raising taxes that should be being spent on
Miami.
stormwater infrastructure.
Yeah.
Storm surge, sea level rise, flooding, all of that, rain events. It's not. You know where it's being spent? Over $30 million in legal costs for commissioners and the mayor, unethical behavior defense fund.
That's a shit show. I saw a little clip of that Joe Carollo, and I was like, this is embarrassing.
Carollo is exactly who I'll be running against for mayor, most likely.
You better beat his ass.
Most likely it'll be a runoff between me and Joe.
Really?
And
that old bag?
He was a commissioner when I was 7 years old.
You're gonna have to run against that bag?
He was a commissioner when I was 7, and he's still there. Bringing it back to local, someone like Joe, I passed an inclusionary zoning ordinance where all the new towers in downtown would have 15% workforce housing in them. And they were being built. At least five new towers near the Arch Center.
Okay.
All have workforce housing in them. And Joe Carollo and a couple other commissioners undid that legislation. What they realized was they wanted to have the development world answering to them, not to a blanket policy that gave incentives that they didn't need to come hat in hand.
They weren't there for the people.
No.
Oh.
If we've hit rock bottom, which you never know, the bottom is always lower than you think.
Yeah.
But if people are fed up enough, they'll vote for change and put good policy in place that makes Miami more affordable.
When is this voting date? Because I have different dates in Tampa.
Well, that's up into the air and up to the commission as well.
Still?
The election is held on November 4th by our charter.
Okay.
But the commissioners are currently trying to move it to next year to give themselves an extra year. So all of the mayor and commissioners who are termed out, the mayor has served his 8 years in mayor.
The ones that are like 90 diapers and depends.
So they want an extra year. And so
can we not vote for viejos, ladies and gentlemen?
But
like,
barring that change,
look at what
almost
a fresh of breath air we have here. I could never sit or have a guest like you on my podcast because they're like 1,000 and they probably wouldn't even know what to do.
We have legislators who are like, they just should be throwing a remote control at a TV screen, but instead we give them power to actually make the decisions for our future of our city.
Why do we do that? Why do we keep doing that? Stop it, Miami. So when are we looking for this election to come up?
The mayoral election in the city of Miami, if you're a city of Miami resident and voter, is November 4th. Check out your registration and go to kenrussellformayor.com and help out.
Yes. You're very Miami. And that's what we need. Someone who's very Miami and humble, because you're humble and I love that about you. And thank you for joining my show. It means everything to me. Yeah, vote for Ken Russell. Absolutely. Do better, Miami.
I just got the endorsement.
Yes. Thank you for coming on my show. You're amazing.
Thanks, Mom.
And don't forget to never stop talking Spanglish. Mwah.